Over the years, Nigeria has been desirous of a credible voting system due to the irregularities that hampered previous elections, which include ballot snuffing, intimidation of voters, hijacking of ballot boxes, violence, and manipulation of election results. Last week, at his Senate screening, the chairman nominee for the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, said Nigerians should brace up for the use of electronic voting technologies that will ensure more credible elections in the future.
The register of voters is biometric. We are now uploading results online to a dedicated portal, and we'll continue to explore other ways by which the electoral process can continue to benefit from the deployment of technology. I know that there are misgivings in some quarters about the efficacy of some aspects of technology in elections, but we shouldn't be deterred. The Commission is determined to continue to deepen the use of technology in elections.
Well, here to weigh in on this and other political matters is electoral observer and public affairs analyst, Femi Lawson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the morning show. All right. I'll go straight to my first question. The idea that INEC will be introducing electronic voting during the 2023 election has been welcomed all round. But when you look at past experiences in our elections, do you think the electoral umpire will have the capacity to engineer this e-voting process come 2023? You know, some analysts have brought up issues of hacking as a major challenge of electronic voting, which can bring about electoral fraud. I'd like your reaction to this.
Well, I think this is a way to go. We've, over the years, advocated for this. We have continued to demand for an improvement in our electoral system. And I think one of the ways we can achieve that is by going via electronic system of voting. And I think the call by the INEC chairmanship nominee, who of course have had a term as the chairman of the commission before, further should reinstate, I think, our confidence in the readiness of the commission, particularly under Professor Mahmood, to actually improve on the credibility of our election. Remember, until he came as the INEC chairman, no leadership of the commission ever attempted to go this route that is currently going, from the time we ceased from the biometric, registration of voters conducted under Professor Jega. There was never any attempt to further consolidate on the electronic approach to our elections. And what we have witnessed in the recent time, starting from national states, House of Assembly election rerun, to Edo, to Ondo, has indicated that if we are genuine as a country, and if we bring up the necessary amendment in our laws, then we can achieve the process of electronic voting. And it is very simple. It's all about determination. It's all about making the enabling laws, through our constitution and the Electoral Act. And I'm very sure Nigerians are going to accept this and can go by this. If you look at the impact of the electronic result collation as witnessed in Edo and Ondo, you realize that it has saved us a lot, especially when you look at controversies that normally, follows election at such periods when results are being collated. So we are approaching that trend, and I think the National Assembly have to yield to this call by Professor Mahmood that we begin to make the necessary amendment to inculcate, the electronic voting system into our law so that we can begin to improve on the credibility of our elections and reduce not only some of the costs we incur on elections, but some of the consequences or actions that follows our elections whenever they are conducted. Litigations, violence, and all sorts of things that we have witnessed in the election will be minimized by the time we approach, the electronic voting system.
This is very essential. Those electoral irregularities in Nigeria, there's a lot of that. So looking at this, it's not, news anymore. Some countries have accepted this system. Some have even rejected it. So that means it comes with its advantages and its disadvantages. Now, focusing on the irregularities we have within Nigeria, for instance, during the last presidential election, there was the tribunal that had to uphold President Muhammadu Buhari's re-election as the president of the country. So in terms of curbing some of these irregularities, like my colleague said, we've seen a lot of, ballot snatching, violence at electoral polls, even the fact that getting people to turn out to vote is another issue. So how do you think effectively e-voting is going to curb these issues?
E-voting has a lot of advantages, and even in the best of democracies, even in the most efficient systems, in the Western countries, you still find, issues around every electoral system. Even in the recently held United States, elections, you have had situations where they have to be recounted, people have to, contest some of the results of the elections. There's no perfect system anywhere in the world. But what we should begin to work towards is a system that moves us away from what we are currently having, a system that increases the credibility of our electoral system. The truth is that our current election, the way they are conducted, does not give so much credibility, especially when you have to vote and it has to be manually counted. Somebody will have to move it from one point to the other, like we used to have, in the middle of the night, and results are manipulated. You find result sheets reading something contrary to what was recorded at the polling stations. By the time we approach the electronic voting system, I'm very sure that we're going to curb a lot of those shortcomings that we are seeing, witnessing during our elections. It becomes an advanced system that, and whatever fault that are we are beginning to notice around this can be improved upon. No perfect system, like I said. When we start from somewhere, there is always a tendency, for us to have an improvement via other, amendment that may be included in our law, or via other technological advancement, which will definitely come up when the system takes place. So we must start from somewhere first. And I'm very sure that by the time we start, we can begin to advance, the course of making it better, and it will definitely improve on the credibility of our elections.
All right, let's look at the Electoral Amendment Bill, which seeks to repeal the Electoral Act number 6, 2010. Which is past second reading at Senate at the moment. Among other things, that bill seeks to provide a timeline for the submission of list of candidates, a criteria for substitution of candidates, and a set limit for campaign expenses, which is very crucial. I'd like your comment on these three provisions in the amendment.
Well, very nice proposals, and these are part of the issues that have been raised over the time by stakeholders in the electoral system, by the political parties, by the civil society in particular, and even some other election partners that have been supporting democracy in Nigeria. But the unfortunate thing is that the willingness of our political class to even implement these laws, whenever they eventually pass, becomes another issue. Today, one of the key institutions that disobeys the law of the land most is the National Assembly. The same institution that makes the law, find a way of disobeying it. And because a lot of people in this National Assembly are members of the major political parties that are always willing to violate whatever law we make in this country. For instance, look at the issue of election financing. There has always been benchmark. There has always been stipulated amount. There has always been stipulated conditions on election financing in Nigeria. But at no time till date, has any of these major political parties come out after an election and give financial reports of what they have spent on one election or the other. In actual fact, they conduct and embark upon public fundraising. They invite corporate organizations, they invite individuals to make donations for the purpose of prosecuting their elections. But at the end of it all, nobody comes to give account to the public because they are in government, they have their majority in the National Assembly, they have their governors. And so if it is not just about making amendment to our law, it's about our willingness, particularly the willingness of the operatives to make sure that these laws are implemented. It is not enough for us to alter our constitution almost every year. Almost every session of the National Assembly have altered the constitution, have altered the provisions of the Electoral Act. But why do we need to keep doing this? In as much as it is part of our quest for development, for advancement in our democracy. But the truth is that many of these amendments are arising because operatives of our democracy are not following even the laws they are making by themselves. And this is very unfortunate.
I completely understand your point of view. Now, when we're going to take a short break now, but when we get back, I want us to speak on I will call it the art of defecting. I think that's the way I'm going to put it now. We've seen politicians move from one political party to another, and now the INEC chairman is saying that, not really electoral officers, but politicians who participate in this should lose their seats. So I want to know if you agree with this. We're going to take a short break now on the morning show. When we get back, we're going to have Femi Lawson, electoral observer and public affairs analyst, back with us to analyze this issue. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News, and we still have political analyst and, of course, electoral observer Femi Lawson with us in the studio. Now, before we went on that quick break, I mentioned the INEC chairman saying that seating officers, if they defect from one party to another, they should lose their seats. We've seen this happen so many times. In 2018, 15 sitting senators left APC to PDP, and most recently, we've seen the Ebonyi state governor do the exact same thing. And he's saying this is just not right. They should not be allowed to do that. So do you agree that they should lose their seats the moment they defect?
It is not even by merely agreeing with that fact. These are matters of law. As we speak in this country today, there is an existing law in our constitution. There is an existing ruling of the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, that has spoken about defection from one political party to the other. But just like I raised earlier, the biggest violators of our law are the people in government. But unfortunately, they're always very quick to make a scapegoat out of the ordinary citizens that violates any law. As far back as 2011, this same National Assembly has amended the Constitution as stipulated in Section 68, subsection 1G. The implication of crossing from one political party to the other, which is automatic loss of your seat. We must always remember that these people who eventually leave from one political party to the other, in the first place, their names do not appear on the ballot papers when elections are conducted. People actually vote for political parties in Nigeria. That is what is in our law. Apart from that, there is a very clear ruling of the Supreme Court that gave condition to when somebody can leave from one political party to the other. But how do we expect this to be implemented when even in the same country, the chairman of the National Assembly, the president of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives defected from the political party upon which they were elected to another political party? These were the people that made the same law. So, in essence, it's a question of morality. Our politicians are immoral. They are disobedient to the laws they make themselves. And what the call, for people losing, it's not a new call. It's a call that we have made over time, and it is a call that will continue. But because every average politician, particularly in Nigeria, is first and foremost there for self, secondly for self, and thirdly for self, until public service is about the people, then we will not begin to know the consequences of some of these actions. The law is very clear about on what condition should a lawmaker leave his party to join another political party. The Supreme Court clearly gave a ruling on that when there is, of course, division. And this division was clearly spelled out. Not division in your ward or your state, like even the senator that recently defected from the PDP to the APC, even though you can clearly find any ideological difference between both political parties. This man defected because he cited division in the party in his state. But the court was very clear that division must, the Supreme Court was very clear about classifying this division. Is the PDP divided as a body, as an entity nationally? No. And that was what, but who will declare the seat of the senator vacant? The chairman of the National Assembly and the Senate president today is from the party he has defected to. So him is an advantage to his political party. So he is not going to do that. So it is not going to be the duty any longer of these people to implement our law the way we are going. Nigerians will not take it upon themselves to begin to recall these people if they cannot do the upright thing, the moral thing of vacating their seats. Whenever they defect, you have the right to move to any other political party to go and pursue whatever ambition, but not by taking the mandate given to a particular political party by the people to another political party because of your selfish and personal ambition.
Yes. You're right. I think INEC also gave a caveat to that. They said, except that there is a merger between two or more political parties, then you can defect. Well, let's move along. In the offshoot of the NSAS protest, Nigerian youth have clamored for the establishment of a political party that will represent their interests. And in a bid for good governance and quality leadership, the Nigerian Youth Democratic Party was launched last week. Now, if you were to evaluate the changes that comes with forming a political party in our climate, what challenges do you think this youth party will be faced with? Well,
establishing a political party, especially when you look at the peculiarity of our laws and the conditions stipulated from, making such associations to become political parties, because still an association as it is until it is registered by INEC, and there are conditions attached to this, even though some of those conditions are still being contested by a lot of people in the court. But the truth is that beyond coming up with an association, the promoters of this party must also move further by ensuring that they work towards, meeting up with the conditions that our laws have stipulated for the registration of a political party. It goes beyond mere social media expressions or merely, creating this idea, very laudable. For a population that has, over, 70 million young people, I don't think it's impossible for such, people to form a political party, for the purpose of taking power. It is very much in order, but they must be willing or be ready to go the length, that the law has demanded from anyone that wants to form a political party and participate in elections. Until that is done, it may just be a mere wish. And if that is not achievable, I think the young people should also be looking at how they can move into the existing political parties, look at the viable ones among these political parties, and begin to participate in the activities, contest for elected positions within the political parties, and begin to, of course, aspire for political leadership within the political parties. Of course, we have seen countries witnessing a series of progressive changes across the world on the basis of inclusion of young people within the existing old political parties, and they are making impact. So I think they must begin to look at how they can achieve the demands of registration beyond just merely existing as an association. And if that is impossible, how do they mobilize young people into the existing political parties that have already gained the prerequisites demands of the law? Then how they can begin to penetrate these parties, make changes within the parties, and of course contest for political positions within the party. But with the population of our young people, I strongly believe it's something that is achievable.
Quite honestly, with the struggle for a chaotic struggle for political power, it's just going to be an interesting one to watch, how these political parties emerge and they, thrive, like my colleague said, in this climate. So with everything going on, any political party joining the system, this is already a system that is riddled with its inconsistencies and with its issues. So would you say that our laws within Nigeria, effectively checkmate issues of electoral processes and offences? And the INEC chairman suggested something. He said the creation of an electoral offences commission and tribunal. Do we need this? How essential is this, considering the fact that as much as we have laws that allow the move from one party to another, for instance, there are still loopholes within this where politicians can capitalize on to make this move easier for them?
Well, I don't, for whatever reason, actually believe there's any need for any special tribunal or commission to try, electoral offences. The truth is that as far as this country is concerned today, we have enough laws that covers some of these issues that will begin to go to national assemblies and create price starters. And you see, it's all about duplicity, and that is why today you find so many relevant commissions, price starters existing for the purposes that commissions, price starters have been created for in the past. What are these electoral offences? Violence during the election, corruption during the election, and what again? These are issues that are purely civil. These are issues that ordinarily the police as an institution should be able to try. Somebody comes on election day, unleash violence on people, terrorizing people during the election. It's purely a criminal. Such person should simply be treated as a civil criminal. somebody comes, begin to buy votes or bribe, voters during the election, or try to, bribe election officials. This is an issue of corruption. Do you need to go further before getting the EFCC or the ICPC to prosecute such persons?
Well, I mean, when you have some of the policemen as your orderly, then, it's a different ballgame entirely. We're going to head out to a quick break right now. When we get back to the show, we're still going to have Femi Lawson with us discussing, some issues arising from the electoral process within Nigeria. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still in the studios with us is Femi Lawson, Electoral Observer and Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for sticking with us. Well, before we went on a break, we were talking about the Nigerian Youth Party. Ethnicity and religion, among others, have been a devil's tool in politics. Do you see this impending the Youth Democratic Party, more so in the build-up to the 2023 election? A president from the Eastern Nigeria has been a topic of discussion. Should the Youth Democratic Party look towards this direction?
I believe we need a Nigerian president, irrespective of what part the person is coming from. And I think this is an opportunity for me to make a special appeal to those who have been advocating for the Igbo presidency to properly channel, this demand in a way that makes it appeal, to a larger population of our people. The truth is that no region in this country can singularly produce a president for the country without the support of other regions. It's an issue of equity, justice and fairness for every part of the country to produce, the president, especially when you consider the peculiarity of our religious and ethnic, diversity. But the truth is that such demand must be made to reflect, a leadership that is going to represent the aspiration of the entire Nigerian people. A lot of people behind the advocacy for Igbo presidency are beginning to narrow it, to make it feel like the Igbo president is coming to be a president of the Igbo. No, it's a Nigerian president of Igbo extraction that is the demand. And I think the approach should be more nationalistic rather than being narrowed, the way some people are attempting to make it look like. And I think the relevance of any political platform that may be used to achieve this is not even the issue, other than how well such political platform can carry anybody along, be it the existing political parties or the new political parties that may emerge. So it's all about getting every part of the country carried along to understand the need, on the basis of equity, fairness, and justice for that part of the country to produce a Nigerian president come 2023. I think it should not be narrowed to an approach that makes it look like it's going to be an Igbo presidency for the Igbo. No, whoever emerges, even if all political parties decide to choose their candidate from the Southeast, it's a Nigerian president and must be seen as such, irrespective of that such consideration.
I get where you're coming from. So, in essence, would you say that the cries for marginalization, the clamor for the Igbo presidency, restructuring, secessionist tendencies, all of these, it's at the end of the day just boils down to a cry for justice, a cry for equity amongst Nigerians? That's just the crux of this entire issue. Nigerians just want justice and fairness.
Yes, that is it. And you see, by the time if eventually we achieve an Igbo presidency in 2023 or whenever, be rest assured that tomorrow or a day in the future, there will be a demand for a TV presidency, a Jukun presidency, an Ibibio presidency, and a Gala presidency, so on and so forth. But why do we continue to have, this kind of demand that makes, because the country looks like a place where there's no equity, fairness, and justice, and that is the truth. And what is the bane of this? Because we have been unable to restructure this country and run it in a way that a proper country should run. If truly we have a country that is restructured and properly run the way democracy should be run, some of these agitations would not even find their place in our discussions. But today we have a country that is built on a very faulty constitution that makes a group of people feel like until we embark on this kind of agitations, it may not be our turn. This is a constitution that gives so much power to a section of the country, that gives so much authority to one man sitting at the center, So there's tendency for this kind of agitation, even beyond the Igbo presidency. Other tribes, other ethnic groups, we will get to a point that it will become, Christian presidency, Muslim presidency. So we must not wait until we get to that point, until we restructure this country. If we don't restructuring brings equity, fairness, and justice naturally. A lot of people will have no business with whoever becomes the president of Nigeria again when we restructure this country, because each constituent, part of the country becomes so powerful, becomes so influential, becomes so empowered to the extent that they will not be interested in what happens at the center, because the center will be like an appendage of these, constituent bodies. But when we have a center that is so powerful that it's like an alpha and omega, in a democracy, you begin to have this kind of agitation. And it will not end on the Igbo presidency. Go and mark it. A day will come that other ethnic nationalities in Nigeria will begin to make such demand, and we must listen to them. And the only way to escape that is by making sure that we restructure this country and empower the constituent bodies, empower the states, empower the regions, as the case may be, to function on their own. Let us run a truly federal system that gives power to the federating unit, not concentrating power in Abuja, not just Abuja, in the hand of the president alone. Yes, so we must avoid that route. And the only way we can avoid that route is by ensuring that we restructure this country.
I'd like for you to elaborate on the federation of the country. This restructuring has been a call for almost, since last elections. I'd love for you to elaborate on what that means.
Well, it's very simple. If we claim to be running a federal system of government, what forms a federal system of government? It's a combination of federating units, states coming together to become a country. Now, that's the essence of a federal system. And in that regard, every federating unit, every part of this body must have a say in how the resources of the states are, are administered. Even in the way they want to run governance. For instance, the way you want to police Lagos State cannot be the same way you police Benue or Zamfara State. These are quite different terrains. These are quite different economic communities. These are quite different set of religion. In Kano, it may be their choice that Isba be placed, as a state police to coordinate and enforce some of their religious principles. It may not be the wish of Cross River State people. So you must allow each state to operate within the limit of the law, you understand? And the only thing that should actually be coordinated at the center are issues of national intelligence and security, foreign affairs, because we are a country. Issues that have to do with our external relations, but issues that have to do with local economy, issues that have to do with mineral resources, issues that have to do with policing, should be left in the hand of the state. And that is when people will have you cannot sit down in Bayelsa and you find oil being explored from your yard, and there is no impact. Yeah, and you are finding skyscrapers in Abuja without being agitated. You will be agitated naturally. So each constituent body must be given the authority to operate. There must be laws that will enable state to prosper economically, because as presently constituted, Nigeria does not encourage and does not even give room for any state to prosper. Apart from states like Lagos, Rivers, and those that are economically viable because of their strategic location and some of those assets that they have. No state in Nigeria has economic justice, getting economic justice from this country. The country that takes VAT, a country that takes consumption tax from the water you drink in Lagos, from the snacks you eat here, and distribute to places where people are not buying such products. You cannot run a country that way. And that's why we need to restructure this country. Let people operate within their capacity, and it will build more potentials. You will see it will reveal more potentials and capacities of our people. That is the way to go. Without going that route, we'll continue to run a center that is so powerful, and we'll continue to weaken our state, and we'll continue to breed more agitations from our people.
Interesting. Now, I like that you mentioned, the situation with regards to true federalism. Just a few days ago, we saw the South leaders demanding this as well, true federalism, restructuring. And now I have two questions for you. As it relates to the oil sector now, privatization has become a big conversation, especially within the South leaders. This could be a form of true federalism for them. So I want you to to analyze this based on the fact that could it be the pancreas to Nigeria's refining issues? And then, is it about the individual or the tribe when it comes to the presidency, when it comes down to the need of Nigerians? What's really important, whether it's the Ijos, whether it's the Igbos, whether it's the Yorubas? Is it about, because now it's starting to sound like, well, even if, this tribe is going to have a better candidate, the fact is this year is for these people. So irrespective of what the people need, this is where the president is going to come from. So is it about the tribe, in your own opinion, or the person?
No, it's not about, even, you see, Nigeria is presently constituted without sounding immodest. Even if you bring an angel to come and be president or governor, it will not perform beyond the limit of what the Constitution has allowed. Because this Constitution gives room for laziness a lot. This Constitution does not encourage productivity. And you see, the demand for privatization of refineries and those ones being made by the South-South governors is not even what I think their focus or priority should be. In actual fact, I don't think government even have any business running refineries in the first place. What we need is an environment, that gives power to, the people, to bring investors into their own land, exploit their resources. They pay dues to the state pay dues to the center, and that is the way to go. So it's not even about who is the governor or the president at this time. If you like, bring an Ijo president. If you like, bring an Ibibio president. If you like, bring, a president even from the village where the mineral resources is being explored. If you don't have a constitution, if you don't have a system that encourages these people to work, or that encourages, productivity, it will still be the same, motion without movement. That is what we're experiencing. So it's not even about where our leaders are coming from or who is the leader now or not. It's about the fact that we have a system that is not working and we are just, making motions and there's no movement. So the people must be able to channel their demands properly. I think the people of the South should begin to do more of demand for a genuine restructuring. They don't have business with how refinery works or not. Refinery will work naturally when oil productivity is prosperous, and the resources are coming to the people. It will attract investors. You cannot be mining crude oil in rivers and be refining in Kaduna. It does not really, you understand? So people will naturally come and invest. Then naturally development will happen.
Yeah.
Without any stress.
I would say that you cannot be more correct in the fact that, whether or not you bring an angel to rule Nigeria, they cannot perform beyond our constitution. Now, there are speculations that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Lagos State Governor Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu are likely to contest during the next election. What do you make of such speculations?
Well, they are Nigerians, and these are very qualified Nigerians, but, don't be surprised that by the time we get to the bridge, we may not have less than 18, 20 people on the ballot aspiring to be president of Nigeria come 2023. But I think whoever wants to become the president of Nigeria and has genuine interest of this country at heart must make restructuring and the need to review this military-imposed constitution, a priority. Irrespective of the character that becomes the president, just like stated earlier, such person will not perform beyond the limit of what is called our constitution today. The constitution does not encourage progress, it does not encourage productivity. It's a totalitarian constitution, and no good man will give Nigerians what they want with that constitution. So I think whoever wants to be president, be it Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, or whoever aspires for the position in 2023 must make the need for restructuring, the need for a review of constitution, the foundation of good governance that they intend to give to Nigerians. Without that, it will still be the same story.
Well, I couldn't agree more. So all in all, looking forward to this Youth Democratic Party that, we're expecting its launch. In terms of funding, in terms of will of the people to go out and vote, how do you think, in about a minute, do you think this, well, I'm guessing, you're going to have to keep that question for another time. We are done with this particular conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Yeah.